30 more seconds, guys. Okay, about 15 more seconds. Okay, we are coming to you guys in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Stephanie Sena, and you're listening to Thinking Constellationally on USALA Media. On this show, we connect the dots between systems of oppression and between ourselves and our neighbors. Today, I'm very excited to have in our studio a special guest, Gabriel Nyantakyi. And Gabriel, did I say it right?
No,
Go ahead.
It's Nyantakyi.
Nyantakyi. Gabriel is the founder of Water Arms Over Firearms, which is a peace initiative that celebrates play, nonviolence, and Black excellence through Super Soakers. And I'm so excited about the work that he's done and continues to do throughout West Philly and the world, really. So I'm excited to have you in the studio to talk a little bit about that. Thank you, Gabriel, for being here today.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a message that I like to share, in order to get more support moving forward and make as much impact as I can. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. So I'm excited to share your work, and I wanted to start off by maybe talking a little bit about how you became interested in Super Soakers and using them as a model of play and nonviolence and Black excellence. So you can talk a little bit about where this idea initiated?
Well, a lot of those different connections were made as an adult, and just drawing from all the experience that I gathered playing with the Super Soaker when I was little, discovering that it was invented by Lonnie Johnson, who's a Black genius from the South, and then embracing the fun, kind of rediscovering it, the nostalgia, and then how it transported me back as an adult, and then wanted to share that as kind of a way to reclaim innocence later on, and it really crystallized as a passion in my adulthood. I'd say around 2011, 2012. Maybe even coincided with the Coney 2012 campaign, which kind of fizzled out. Man, I'm the only one keeping it alive right now. Did they ever prosecute Joseph Coney? Who knows? It's not that important. But the important thing that we should take from it is that, and which was the important thing about that campaign was that it's I think it was called the Lost Children.
Mm-hmm.
.org. So, I mean, that what spoke to me is that, what made him so heinous was that he was exploiting children and kind of taking their innocence from them. So, I kind of I made the connections. Okay, by giving them guns, he took their innocence. Would there be a way to give children a child a gun, which could maintain their innocence, maintain their purity, maintain their playfulness? And the Super Soaker was that gun, not just as a symbol, but as a literal item. Okay, here's a gun that has the complete opposite intention and manifestation in reality. So I took that inspiration, take something negative, and that'll be a recurring theme. Take something that is negative and try to reinterpret it and counter it with something positive. So,
are Super Soakers something that you enjoyed as a kid? Is that something you played with a lot when you were little?
Absolutely, and not just Super Soakers, all kinds of guns.
You're really reestablishing the idea of play, and I don't think so. I've been to many of your events before, and one thing that I find interesting is you're talking here about children maintaining their innocence, but what I've seen is it's not just children who are playing with them. When you have your events, I see people of all ages. I mean, really, what was the, remember that one woman who was celebrating her 60th birthday or something like that? And I see, you know, when we become adults, sometimes play is thrown away, and that's something of our youth, and we don't engage in that playful spirit anymore. But I see that come out. I see you bring that to people of all ages, right? Not just children.
For sure, for sure. Play is universal, not just in human beings, but throughout like the animal kingdoms, at least mammals. I don't know if there's like you know less complex organisms that play, but definitely you see cats, you see puppies, our ape family members, like they have different play, which prepares them for what they may do in adulthood, and yeah, a lot of it is mimicking, you know, some things that could be considered as violent, the wrestling, the kind of roughhousing, um, things like that. So that also is a part of play, to maybe simulate things that could be violent or recreate, um, war, or which is sadly a reality of existence as we know it. What I try to do with the Super Soaker is kind of elevate play to celebrate not just the reality and recreate scenarios that we are all too familiar with, but to change the perspective to like what could be, like what can we create, like through this invention of a black genius.
Can you talk a little bit about that black genius?
Yeah,
You
Lonnie
mentioned
Johnson,
it. Yeah.
Dr. Lonnie Johnson.
When was this?
Um, well, the Super Soaker was developed in the '80s. He was born. I believe he's around 72 right now.
Okay.
So I don't know, Mom. The math was 2020, so he was born. Maybe I guess that would put him in like late 40s. He grew up in Alabama, I believe, and was a prodigy, even as a youth. There's like a famous story. He was like, he cooked up rocket fuel, like legit rocket fuel, like in his kitchen, and almost burnt his house down.
Oh my God.
He won.
That was me yesterday trying to bake a banana bread.
He won numerous uh, robotics competitions and or science fairs. Specifically, he invented his own robot. Like in high school, he went on to work for NASA, and yeah, maybe even he went on to work on some weapons programs. I think he was affiliated with the stealth bomber program. But in his spare time, while working on like a heat pump, he discovered that this cooling system that he was developing, shot some water across his bathroom, and he was like, "Wow, like that would make a good water gun." And uh, yeah, so he ran with that idea, developed it over almost a decade. The company that finally, uh, really felt his pitch and ran with the idea was based in Philadelphia.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
So this has some Philly history to it.
yeah, most definitely.
And significant that it was a black inventor, and one maybe people don't know about that much, but made some significant advances in technology.
That's definitely a source of inspiration for me, and if you want to create kind of new paradigms and new ways of looking at the world, I feel it's important to kind of draw inspiration from different places. Like, we need more women in leadership position. We need to look, be inspired from more diverse places, because we've gotten into a place there's been like a lot of inertia that has us here. Things have been very Eurocentric,
Mhm.
very uh, patriarchal for like too long. So
Well, in that light, it's interesting. You mentioned Coney 2012, and I teach about that because I teach courses at Villanova in history of poverty and homelessness, and I actually start with the video of Coney 2012 because interestingly, it was so long ago, and yet most of my students remember learning about it in school. And I talk about it in the lens of the what we call the white savior complex because Coney 2012 it was an initiative of, as you said, Invisible Children, which was started by Jacob Russell. And this was an
mm-hmm.
initiative started mostly by privileged, elite white males in the West who didn't really know that much about Uganda. And they saw this villain who they saw as Joseph Kony, and they
Mm-hmm.
had this idea that we're going to take him out. But it wasn't a very nuanced effort and didn't really understand all of the complexities in Uganda that gave rise to Joseph Kony, and especially how the United States policy contributed to Joseph Kony coming to power. I say all that because it's interesting that it was you having this idea of using Soper Sukkers as a peace initiative coincided with seeing these children in Uganda with guns. But I think that it's incredibly important and relevant that you are co-opting so many messages, ideas, like memes that are already in our lexicon. So, for example, you're co opting the gun, and instead of using it as a place of violence, you're using it as a weapon of peace. But also co opting this movement because I think it's so important that we have black leaders in charge of these movements. And so I think that it makes a difference. The difference between Water Arms Over Firearms and Invisible Children, I think that there is a difference when the people at the helm, the people in leadership are black men or women, especially because you also have roots in Africa. Your father is from Ghana, and so you go back there. And I think that that makes a tremendous difference because when Joseph Kony goes to Africa, he's going with this Eurocentric, I think, white savior complex. And that actually, he can have incredibly good intentions, but he often misses the mark. So I think that it's important that, that the work of black men and women who are leading these initiatives towards peace they have their voices amplified, and so I'm excited to talk a little bit about Black excellence and your work in Ghana and really throughout the world. So can you talk a little bit more about what you do, not just in West Philly, which is where you live, but really throughout the world?
Let's see.
It's a
Honestly,
lot to
yeah,
unpack.
no,
You
yeah,
can
yeah,
start
yeah.
with West Philly if you want.
Yeah, we'll start with the West Philly.
Okay.
Um,
And it's not just super soakers, right? You've done like archery clinics and a whole bunch of workshops to really empower youth in West Philly.
yeah, I've started a archery club. Um, that was, I've been an archery instructor for a little over a decade, and it's kind of, you know, my energy that I put into that has waned a little bit because I have focused on water arms over firearms so much in the past year and a half, 2 years. But it's always something that I'm passionate about, and when the weather breaks, I want to get back into. But to, back to your point, as just like getting different messaging and imaging uh, about Africa and black masculinity and black joy. I mean, that's another major element is that to change the narratives and change the image of what's presented. If Coney 2012 campaign would have been like a lot of people's first experience with the images of African children or African politics or anything that's going on, that would be a very negative introduction. So, I would like to take the opportunity and the one of the products of this program and the work that I've been doing in Africa is yeah, two present different images, like the, joy, black joy, children playing, children, being inspired, and um, being able to provide outlets for children to be empowered and have opportunities for their creativity, and just and not just the creativity, but to really be kids. And the fact that it was a black inventor who created the Super Soaker, it's like, and I mean, Africa is like the perfect climate. It's almost like, okay, here's this African in the diaspora invented this gun that is like perfectly designed for people of the African descent in Africa. Like, it's always summertime. Like, if those Super Soakers were on the shelf, like, they would be stocked all year round. Like, it's perfect. So, I mean, that's a very empowering message. And I told the children that, like,
Wait, can you go back to you told the children? You told
no,
the
yeah,
children in
I
Ghana?
told the children, like, this is like, if you're developing a future that reflects your interests and your needs, and like, if you want to apply like Afrofuturist philosophy to your own future, like, you can, create your future. Your Afrofuturism is your future. Develop one that reflects your interests, your needs, or create a future that looks like you, and you can present, okay, like, yeah, here's an invention that reflects all of those things. Something that's fun in a way that you can relate to, was invented by someone that looks like you, um, something that's perfectly adapted to your climate, uh, something that can challenge you, your creativity, your ingenuity, and also there's another element of environmental protection and interaction with it. Because, yeah, water shortages and water crisis is something that is going to be a major challenge for Africa and the world, moving forward. And for children to start thinking about resource management, and even within this fun context, it can be just another way that they can start to interact with these challenges, and and that's also a component of the project. I was able to donate some money to an orphanage, and just by coincidence, they were working on some water infrastructure projects at this orphanage that I was able to visit. Like some water collection, like a cistern, and due to some generosity, from some donors, like from a West Philly group, I was able to give them, around $100, and just said, okay, here's for the water infrastructure for the orphanage,
And that goes a long way there.
yeah, absolutely. And as the program develops, I would like to be able to, endow some funds for children. Okay, all right, you're gonna be, this water gun thing is like, this is gonna change your life. But let me also give you the ability to start to manage your own resources. Like, do you need some water collection? Some barrels, some infrastructure. Okay, so I guess we're out of
We're going to
time.
take a short break and we're going to come right back so we can talk a little bit more about your initiative, Water Arms Over Firearms, and the good work that you're doing throughout the city and the world. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Thanks.
Our hearts are made stronger by how we treat others.
Put her there.
The light you share can impact those around you, but so can the darkness.
Later, twerps.
Did Pete saying mean things bother ya?
So when you reach out to another person, take a moment to consider how they will feel and let your heart be the key to making a difference. Because of you, someone's entire day, year, or even life can change.
In every heart, there's hope.
Sometimes the things we do or say can make others feel hurt, excluded, or isolated. Everything you say and do creates an impact.
How am I supposed to save the whole world?
You can't think about saving the world. You have to think about saving one person.
Because of you, someone's entire life can change. You don't have to be a superhero to have a positive impact.
Friends?
Friends.
Alright, cool. Okay, cool. So it's called waterarms.com. Okay, cool. Got you. Alright, we're going to be coming back in about 30 seconds, by the way.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, and she convinced me to continue my education. No one receives a diploma alone. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Okay, we are coming back to you guys in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, and welcome back to Thinking Constellationally. I'm your host, Stephanie Sena, and we're on USALA Media. Today I have a special guest, Gabriel Nyantakyi, who is the founder of Water Arms Over Firearms, a initiative using water arms to promote peace, play, and Black excellence. And so I'm excited to have Gabriel in the studio today talking about the good work that he does with this project throughout the city and the world, really. So, Gabriel, you travel widely with this organization, and I know you just returned from a trip back to Ghana, which is where your father is from. So you have family there, you have roots in Ghana. And I was wondering if you could take a little time to talk to us about the work that you've done in Ghana and also in Thailand. So tell me a little bit about the trip, what you did, how you use the water arms, not just really for play, but also for education, specifically related to STEM. If you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll go back a little bit further into how it all came to be. 'Cause, you know, it's in line with the theme of your show, the connecting the dots here. So I happened to be in Ghana a year ago, and you know, I was there for a funeral. One of my aunties passed, and I went to support my cousin. And being in Ghana and just observing is, if you haven't been to Africa, you know, I highly recommend it. You know, if you need any kind of motivation to like work harder or be more creative, or just I don't know, just like if you need more energy, you know, it's definitely the place to go to catch that inspiration. So just being there, you know, it really got my gears, you know, like churning. Like how could I take the program to the next level? Prior to that, yes, like Water Arms Over Firearms had been primarily just a peace initiative, using the symbol and trying to inspire people and to have more positive play, to encourage more positive outcomes. But I started to think like, okay, what could I do to do more? Like, how can I even make a more material impact, something measurable, and just expand my reach? So, and yeah, I was inspired by like a number of factors, you know, some needs and then some of, like I said, that energy. That so one of the things that I identified that was a glaring need in Africa and other developing places was like water infrastructure. I don't know if you've been to the tropics. The same thing in like India and Sri Lanka, like a lot. And in Ghana, where I was, the side of the roads, they're just like open draining, like sewers, like they're, and you can easily fall in. It's like a hazard. I don't know how people is, you know, like it's not really wheelchair friendly. It adds an element of like you're playing Frogger when you leave the house. Like if you're not paying attention, like you're on your phone, you could fall into a sewer and your day is ruined. Like
your day is ruined. I'd say
that's
an
ruined. Like
understatement of the year.
You need your head on a swivel. That's like part of it. Like you think you might go to Africa and you have to look out for like wild animals. No. You basically like you need to like watch out traffic. You need to like make sure you don't get hit by a car. You need to make sure you don't like fall into a sewer by like mistake.
That's the real threat. It's not wild animals. It's falling into it. Okay.
So.
And where in Ghana were you?
In Accra, the capital city. Of course, like in the rural areas, like that isn't a major problem, but in the urban areas, yeah, those are the challenges. And I was raised by plumbers. And, one of my play uncles, he told me that if you think about the history of the world, plumbers have saved more people than doctors. You just look at the numbers, like the amount of waterborne illnesses there are, how important water is to health. You can fact check that.
No, I think that I think you're right. I've never thought about it that way, but I'm going to repeat it because I think that's so interesting that plumbers have saved more lives than doctors.
Oh, for sure.
I had never thought of that. That's really fascinating. Yeah, and I think you're right.
And even now, like malaria is like a major issue. If there's less like just open water sources, it could greatly reduce like the spread of malaria, and like cholera is still a thing. So, I started to make those connections. Like, Africa needs plumbers. You know what I mean? And then I started to think, well, a super soaker is basically a network of valves, reservoirs, tubing. It's kind of a little plumbing. It's a miniature plumbing system in your hand. Okay, if you could understand how a super soaker works, modify, repair a super soaker, you can apply those same principles to a plumbing system. Okay, and then, like being in Ghana, just like looking. My uncle lived across the street from like a mechanic shop. And you could just see like, nothing gets wasted. I mean, people are always like, DIY, like fixing things themselves. And then that energy is strong. So it was kind of like this loop of inspiration. Okay. The infrastructure is there to have, either skilled and knowledgeable like engineers, craftspeople, skilled laborers in that area that can really help develop the infrastructure of not just Ghana, but like Africa and many other places where in the global South where that's an issue. So I thought, okay, my never-ending desire for more super soakers broadened. It's like, okay, how can I get some broken super soakers that may need fixing? Well, that brought my attention to Thailand, Southeast Asia. Their New Year's celebrations have traditionally been water celebrations. And I found out about this maybe 6-7 years ago. Maybe a friend of mine was traveling in Indonesia, caught some dirty water to the eye, had an eye infection. But it was kind of vague. I didn't really think about it. But I was aware of a number of water celebrations that happen, not just in Asia, but like all over. Like Spain has one. Turkey has one. I think they're certain like ethnic groups, like Armenians, may have like a water celebrations. So it's like a ubiquitous thing in many cultures. But in Thailand specifically, the entire country has a water fight. And traditionally this was done with buckets of ice water people would throw at each other. Since the super soaker was invented, kind of technology has been integrated into this celebration, and it's now become the world's largest water gun fight every year.
Wow.
So on a whim, and I reached out to a couple of people on Instagram that had been there. Well, hey, what's it like after? What's the trash look like? 'Cause, dumpster diving and doing some food rescue has also been a passion of mine. So I was like, hey, what's it like? And had some confirmation that there's a lot of waste of the water guns and super soakers after. So yeah, last year I went to investigate, and that commercial from the 70s where there was like the Native American like standing by himself in the field, and there's like a tier. He's surrounded in a field that's like full of litter. That was me in Thailand, with like in a street when there's like there was litter with like super soakers like in the trash.
Wow.
So, I'm glad I didn't just go on like an observe, data collection mission. I'd have felt powerless. It would have, So, I went with the intention, and was able to, collect as much as I could. So, pretty much as much as I could carry, and feasibly transport, I was able to collect. Like it was a smorgasbord. Like,
what's the name of this festival?
It's called Songkran.
Songkran. Okay. And give us some like concept of how massive this is. Like how many super soakers do you think you saw? How many people are out in the streets carrying super soakers?
Okay, so I'm gonna cough for 1 second.
Go cough, yeah.
I mean, Bangkok is a massive city.
Is that where you were in Bangkok?
Yeah. So Bangkok is a massive city. It's on the scale of a New York or a LA. Like it's huge.
Wow.
I mean, you can run the numbers. Like there's probably 15 million people. Oh, but it's a mega city. It's a mega city. So, and there's a 7-Eleven on every corner. Like it's really weird. So you walk into any 7-Eleven, and it's just flooded with water guns you can buy, like super along the walls, hanging from the ceilings.
Amazing.
And tourism is massive in Thailand too. So it's definitely geared towards tourists, the locals responding to that, sell water.
Yeah.
To refill guns, like it's.
Wow.
And 7-Eleven's also taking advantage of it. They're selling super soakers, selling water guns, and so yeah, capitalism. It definitely, like many holidays here, there's that commerce is huge.
But then there's like holidays here, a ton of waste afterwards.
Yeah. And of course that produces. That's where a crafty fellow like me can come in on the back end and try to, reduce all that plastics that would find their way into the ocean, or become an incredible burden on a recycling system or a landfill. So yeah, I went collected about 300 pieces. Probably ended up weighing around like 400 pounds.
Wow.
Of like super soakers, and was able to ship those to Ghana. With like a lot of hard work, like physical, like me running around in the streets of Thailand, like in the alleys,
salvaging these thrown away super soakers. Amazing.
Yeah. And to be reunited with them in Ghana,
because it took a long time for it to travel on a ship from Thailand to Ghana.
It took about 2 months.
Okay, and then once it got in Ghana, you had an uncle, I think, who
yeah, one of my uncles was able to receive the package.
Okay, and that was like around September or something.
That was like back in July.
July, okay. And then you were finally reunited with them in December when you were able to go back.
Finally reunited back in December, and.
But these had been trashed.
Oh yeah, they had seen action.
Yeah,
They had seen action. Many of them worked.
Wow.
I say 20%. Absolutely nothing wrong with them.
Okay.
Just like people, at the end of the night, they're drunk. They had partied. They just, leave them.
Wow.
Another 30%, very minor issues. Another 30%, you could probably swap parts. There was probably 20% I should have just left them in the trash. I got excited. There's a couple I got to Ghana. I was like, yo, does somebody have beer in this? I can't take these to the school. I can't give these to the kids.
But meanwhile, what you ended up doing is taking all of these super soakers to the school and offering workshops in terms of how to salvage them. You took them apart, really to teach about the science and the infrastructure with skills that, and make it kind of accessible to children so that they can learn. And so to eventually apply those skills to being a plumber, which Ghana desperately needs more of.
Oh, plumber or an engineer
yep.
or just problem solve in general.
Yeah, amazing.
You can just start to troubleshoot, like, okay, and start to think critically, like,
wow.
All right, there's a leak. I'm not getting enough pressure. All right, and just start to like run through that checklist. All right, let me try this first. Let me check this valve. And these are skills that can be applied, anywhere, in Ghana where resources are limited, a lot of the science labs are lacking in a lot of experiments or really hands-on experimentation that they could do. Science kits, I didn't observe. There's no frogs to be dissected, so. What I'm trying to do is like, okay, here, let's dissect these water guns, understand how they work. They work a lot like a plumbing network or a toilet or a water treatment system, and you can take those same principles and apply them broadly. And it went great. I was like so fulfilled and by the feedback that I received. Kids. Given the option, like, okay, you can take this super soaker that works and go run and play with it, or you can sit here with me and like try to fix, a few that are broken. And kids were opting like, yo, give me a screwdriver, like I wanna fix it, I wanna like, and like, the energy, it really validated like all the work that I put in, like, and time and money and just like sweat equity that I put in. So, yeah, I'm geared up. Like every year, there's gonna be 1 million super soakers in the trash. So like the possibilities are endless. Like,
You think you'll go back to Thailand after this year's?
Absolutely. Thailand is great. Thailand is great.
And you'll salvage more when you go.
That's the intention. Like I said, it would be tough to go and just watch.
Yeah.
Even if I ended up going,
just be a Gabriel in a field with a tear down his cheek.
Yeah.
In a stream of thrown away super soakers.
Even if I went and just ended up collecting and then organized to ship at a later time, like I'm not sure the logistics of everything just yet. It took a lot of money.
I know.
It took around maybe like $4,000 in just shipping of like. Now, if I scale things up, the cost per piece will go down greatly. But then that takes even more work.
Yeah.
Like the infrastructure, and the logistics to get like more volunteers, more storage vehicles.
So that's why I am excited to share your story and put it out there, because we need more support. You need funds, donors, volunteers, people. You need really an entire team to help make this happen. And I'm convinced, and I'm sure our listeners are convinced, that this is something necessary. And Gabriel, you're a true visionary, and I think you're a genius.
Just connecting these dots, like.
That's exactly what you are. You're thinking constellationally.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
Well, this is incredible, and I'm so inspired by you and your mission. And we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about Water Arms Over Firearms, the work you do in Philly and throughout the world, and how people listening can get involved either by donating money or volunteering, because there's many ways that people can lend their time, energy, or money to this effort. So thanks so much, Gabriel, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma. I have a mentor, and she convinced me to continue my education. No one receives a diploma alone. If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, go get it. You can do it.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
Sometimes the things we do or say can make others feel hurt, excluded, or isolated. Everything you say and do creates an impact.
How am I supposed to save the whole world?
You can't think about saving the world. You have to think about saving one person.
Because of you, someone's entire life can change. You don't have to be a superhero to have a positive impact.
Friends?
Friends.
Hello, my name is Sheila E. Armstrong, and I'm a candidate for the 2nd Congressional District. The reason why I'm the best candidate for the 2nd Congressional District is because I am on the ground doing the work. As your community congresswoman, I'm committed to go door by door and neighborhood to neighborhood to address the issues in our community. For instance, one issue that is concerning to me is the gun violence. Today is January the 16th. And the city of Philadelphia has 22 murders, which is more than a days in a year. This is not right. And you deserve to live in a city and a community that is safe. As your community congresswoman, I will work diligently to fight for you, the people. My name is Sheila E. Armstrong, and I am the best candidate for the 2nd Congressional District. Thank you.
Hi, and welcome back to Thinking Constellationally. I'm your host, Stephanie Sena, and we're on USALA Media. Today, we have special guest Gabriel Nyantakyi, and Gabriel's talking about his work with Water Arms Over Firearms, a project that he started, a peace initiative to encourage play and nonviolence and Black excellence. And so this has been incredibly inspiring. Gabriel's talked a lot about his work, his inspiration, and how he has really connected the dots by salvaging water soakers from Thailand that were in the trash and headed for the ocean or the landfill. And he salvaged them, shipped them to Ghana, where he held workshops with students in Ghana, with children in Ghana, to teach them problem solving, critical thinking, and engineering skills by dissecting these super soakers and problem solving in terms of how to fix them. So that's pretty incredible, Gabriel. And as you mentioned, you're hoping to return to Thailand and then potentially Ghana, maybe make this a yearly adventure for the project.
That would be the dream.
The dream. Well, we want to all help make this dream come true, because I think it's a really important dream. And by you dreaming, I think you're also a role model for other kids in West Philadelphia coming up, like you are and like you did, and encouraging other children to dream big and to fulfill their dreams and to hold on to that passion and that play. So. So tell us a little bit about what you need to help foster this and make it sustainable. How can listeners engage in this project and make sure that it continues?
Yeah, but before I get to Shilling,
yeah,
I just wanted to piggyback off of what you said about kind of that inspiration and like the Black excellence portion of it, and I think the entire world really is like reflecting on you know, the loss of Kobe Bryant like over the weekend, and you know, being from Philly, and like he's only a couple years older than us. Like a lot of my best friends like played basketball with him. Like I was never that good, but they actually played against him. Wow. They a lot of people like from the community that I grew up in was very close to the main line. And they were like, you know, in classes with him and stuff like that. So it definitely hit close, and like my own connections with that, and really understanding like how positive images can really affect people. You know, my Kobe story is my father, you know, being an immigrant, like the same kids who were in school with Kobe, they were like doctors on the main line that I happened to be in the same religious community with. You know, my father used to do a lot of like handyman stuff. He was a window washer, you know, over at one of the doctors. I believe his son actually was on the basketball team with Kobe. So we went to his house to like wash the windows, and I was helping my father. And like one of the kids in the cul-de-sac like sees me, and he's like, "Yo, is that Kobe?" And I'm like, you know, no, that's like kind of.
He thought you were Kobe Bryant.
Yeah, just because I was like because I was a black kid in the burbs.
Okay.
So he was like,
well, there's more than that actually, because I've been like trolling Kobe Bryant's Instagram page lately, and devastated like so many other people in Philadelphia and throughout the world are at his passing, and there's more than just the fact that you're a black kid in the suburbs, but I think there is a similarity. First of all, I do in terms of the fact that you both have really gorgeous smiles.
I was short. I was short. Kobe was already probably like 6'4" then.
All right.
You know, we're talking about this is me and like.
So not you currently 2020 because 2020 I see a resemblance in terms of
I had a little fro. I probably had who knows what my hair was like. Then. You know, I didn't have.
You weren't as beautiful then as you are now, is what you're saying.
You got no.
Okay.
No, I say that. I was a child then. We're talking about Kid Gabe, but. Yeah, no, it was clear that I wasn't Kobe. It was definitely racist.
It's definitely racist.
Let's not sugarcoat this.
Okay.
But it was like a striking thing that like, okay, it was a less virulent form of racism. You know, it was like, it showed that, you know, the image of like, okay, this is something positive. And why did people look up to Kobe? Because of his skill, because like even then, like people knew how hard he worked and his potential to be something great. And, you know, it just made it a little bit easier. Like, okay, I can be mistaken for someone positive. It wasn't like, oh, there's a black guy, like hide the good stuff. You know, it was like, oh, well, could be mistaken for someone who was known for positive things. So that was like, you know, it was big for, you know, just, I guess it's just big in general to have, you know, positive things be associated with you. And, you know, it should be mentioned that, you know, Kobe had his flaws and, you know, definitely being bestowed with so much power and kind of privilege from an early age, you know, most definitely probably was a lot for a young man to handle and perhaps corrupted him. But, you know, he did get a chance to develop and mature. And I'm sure, you know, him raising 4 daughters, like, you know, must have transformed his life. And, you know, he certainly didn't pass the same person he was as a teenager or a younger man. So, you know, yeah, just inspired by that, you know, positive legacy that he's left. And if we can look at it as, you know, a legacy that he was able to improve and transform himself through hard work throughout his life, either, you know, in his personal life and in basketball. But yeah, back to.
Well, no, I think that's really important. Is that I think that it's so vital, especially for children growing up in West Philly, to have images and narratives about Black excellence and about Black men and women who are, you know, following their passions, who are making the world better, who have talents. And I see you in that role, that you are a role model really for kids who really are in need of leaders to look up to. And so some other kid will be running around, somewhere, and somebody will be like, is that Gabriel Nyantakyi?
I don't know about that, but I do try to illuminate, people like Dr. Lonnie Johnson
Yeah.
as that example. And if someone could look at me and be like, hey, here's a guy who's just like really out here chasing a passion, and to put other, to put other people on or try to make a difference, if that's how I'm looked at, then cool. But
I think that's exactly how you're looked at.
I'm definitely more of an assist man and Kobe. I'm not always about taking. I try to. I definitely try to, point people in other directions.
You
to
do,
be inspired.
but I think you are inspirational and an absolute example of Black excellence. So I think that's what you're putting out into the world, and it resonates with people. Over the summer, you had a bunch of events that you held, Super Soaker events, and they were well attended. Tons of people came out, and you got a lot of press on it. And I think it's because that there's a need for this right now, a need for to be able to engage with play and nonviolence and peace. And I think you're absolutely inspirational. So that is what you're putting out there. Amazing.
Thank you.
So how can we get on board and help make sure that this is scalable and sustainable?
Wow. Website is like minty fresh, probably still new. It's probably not finished yet. But you can check it out at waterarms.org, and Facebook, Instagram, those avenues as well. There's a GoFundMe that's currently running. That always will receive your dollars, and please feel free to reach out to me via many of those outlets to see about volunteering, or if you want to help out in other ways, collaborate on a future event. It's like the 30th anniversary of a lot of Super Soakers this year. So,
are you going to be creating your own Super Soakers, do you think?
I have some things in the works.
Okay.
I definitely have some things in the works. Like, I want to definitely shed some light on and the industrial design and artistry that went into the creation of that first Super Soaker line, and maybe inspire other people to also like design things and inspire myself to get back in there, start drawing again, and get creative. Like it's definitely on my bucket list. But so look out for that too. And sometime this year, I do want to have an exhibit that will accentuate and exhibit the departure that the Super Soaker went. So I've been talking about a lot of this like as a metaphor, but no, literally, these are water guns that rejected the form of firearms. And I mentioned in the first segment, we grew up watching Arnold Schwarzenegger and Rambo movies. We loved violence, you know what I mean? Like, to play violent, everything was playing with war, if we didn't have a cap gun or, something that actually looked like a gun, you just slap two pieces of wood, like, oh, I have a machine gun or everything. So for the Super Soaker to come out and embrace, like, yo, this is bright and colorful. Like, this thing is neon orange and bright yellows and blues, and it didn't matter. The only thing that really mattered is that, the performance. Like, this thing shoots 30 feet. Like, what? 30 feet? Like, that's incredible. You can actually do more. So, you can wet things more effectively than with something that may look like an actual gun, but only shoots 10 feet. Like, what? That's corny. So, like, I really want to, even look at that. Like, so the imagination was like, yo, let's completely reject, gun culture. Like, and that's part of the direction I want to go. Is like, okay, if we could create a new gun culture, and for like that little pocket in the early 90s, there was like a new gun culture that was developing. And, sadly, the Super Soaker brand has like lost a little bit of energy. It was like absorbed by Nerf and Hasbro, and it kind of like lost that. So yeah, part of it is I do want to celebrate that past. I'm like, yeah, if I were to get into releasing my own product or designing my own product, or even what I want to promote and what's being in production right now, are things that kind of embrace their own unique designs that either that look to the future and aren't inspired by current weaponry or like past firearms. So
That's amazing. So coming soon. I think that there's so much on the horizon for you and for Water Arms Over Firearms, and I'm excited to watch as it grows and expands, and you touch more people. So I think, as you mentioned, there's many ways that people can get involved. I'll post the link to your website, waterarms.org, and to the GoFundMe page. But you know, this is kind of all hands on deck. Anyone can be involved, donating time, money, and any resources that they have. So thank you, Gabriel, for being such an inspiration to me and to people throughout the city and the country and the world. Really, you're an incredible person, and I'm grateful that you took the time to talk to us and teach us everything about your project. So thanks for being here, Gabriel.
oh, thanks for having me.
Okay, and we'll see you next week on Thinking Constellationally on USALA Media. I'm your host, Stephanie Sena, and have a great week.